Good evening, everyone. I'm Tamara Felton Howard of Felton Howard Law. I am a local St. Petersburg attorney engaged by the League of Women Voters of the St. Petersburg area to moderate this virtual forum for candidates running for Pinellas County Sheriff. Candidates for sheriff are the incumbent Bob Gualtieri and Eliseo Santana. To learn more about these candidates, visit our voter guide at vote.lwvspa.org, as well as the candidates' election websites. We want to thank St. Pete Catalyst for being our digital media partner for our general election candidate forums. St. Pete Catalyst is also providing the closed captioning for these forums. This forum is facilitated by the League of Women Voters for the St. Petersburg area and the League of Women Voters North Pinellas County. The League of Women Voters is celebrating 100 years of informing voters and defending democracy. Please visit PinellasVoterGuide.com for complete and unbiased information on voting and candidates. I would also like to thank our nonpartisan community co-sponsors, Pinellas Now, West Pinellas Now, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, USF St. Petersburg, USF St. Petersburg Center for Civic Engagement, and ACLU of Florida, Pinellas County Chapter. Now, let's get to the candidates. I will ask each candidate a series of questions, and they will have 1 minute to answer each question. They will each have 2 minutes to make a closing statement at the end. The order of the candidates' closing statements were determined by drawing straws. Since we are in a virtual format, we are unable to take questions from the audience during the forum. Please note that the views expressed by the candidates do not represent those of the League of Women Voters or of this forum's co-sponsors. Okay, we are now ready to begin our questioning. The first question will go to candidate Gualtieri. What are the top 3 qualities that you prioritize or would prioritize in selecting new recruits, and why?
Well, we have to make sure that they have the right character, the right abilities, that they come from the right background, and the right commitment to service. Those are traits that we look for as we are recruiting people and selecting people. So we emphasize strong character and a commitment to public service. We want people that want to make sure that they're here for the right reasons and that they have the right perspective. So I think those were definitely the attributes and the right character that we want from the people that we're recruiting to be deputy sheriffs.
Thank you. Candidate Santana, same question.
Looking at increasing our diversity that we have, it's important to have people that are the deputies that represent the community that they're going to serve. Looking at maybe some different type of educational backgrounds that will be able to bring that new ability of the officer to be able to deal with situations. And also, I like the idea of giving a priority those individuals that live within the community, that want to work in the community rather than have outside. It is so important to make sure that whoever it is has the ability to communicate and to be able to have the value of being able to make our community safe and not necessarily use brute force or militarism to be able to impose and but be able to bring in that collective of the community and community policing.
Thank you. The second question, candidate Santana, how much emphasis do you or would you place on de-escalation during training of new recruits and current deputies, and why?
I think it's essential. When you only train an officer to be able to take control of the situation and to use force and to impose themselves on it to be able to gain it. When that's the only option you have, then the outcome is not going to be good. We need to give them the ability of being able to have other choices, and that's what training comes into play, where they be able to see what is happening and bring down the situation. The more tools an officer has, the less likely that he is going to have to resort to brute force and violence and impose themselves on it. It does not create a safe situation for our community when them are the only choices that we have. So continued training of our officers is essential so that they'll be able to have other options.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri.
Oh, it's absolutely essential, and we do that now. You know, it's unfortunate that Mr. Santana is using the term about brute force because law enforcement officers don't use brute force. Law enforcement officers respond to resistance that is used against them. And I'd say that we have great success in our training. We have a stellar training unit, and we make sure that we instill those de-escalation principles. And, you know, the proof's in the pudding. All you got to do is look at the numbers. We respond to about 500,000 calls for service a year. And last year, we only used force in about 400 of those 500,000 calls. So our use of force rate is 0.087%. We don't use force that much. And law enforcement responds to what people do to us. And that is the quintessential nature of de-escalation, is make every effort to resolve it in a peaceful way. And we do that, and we've done it very successfully, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri, this is your the question number 3. You will answer that first. How do you or would you evaluate a deputy's performance, and how is or would good performance be rewarded?
Well, we have extensive performance measures. We evaluate the deputies, and it is really it has to be a holistic approach on what they do every day. It's everything from knowledge of laws, effective communication, being able to problem solve, to deal with community issues. Being a police officer and a law enforcement officer today is complex. It's a hard job. And we're very thankful for the men and women who decide to commit themselves to that. And so we want to make sure that as we are considering their performance, we're looking at the whole package. And it certainly is not based upon the number of arrests they make or the number of tickets they make. It's how they deal effectively with problems, resolve problems, and deal with the community. And I'd say one of the most effective tools that we use is how they communicate and resolve problems.
Thank you.
Oh, it's my turn. Oh, it is because I am going to be emphasizing community policing rather than reacting to issues as they're occurring. But we're going to have officers in the ground being able to interact with the neighborhoods, with the individuals there. So we're going to be measuring with their ability to connect and to be able to resolve problems before they become a arrest issue. So we're going to have a lot of feedback by our community to be able to truly evaluate the performance of the officer in being able to establish that. We need to radically change the way we do law enforcement. Instead of being reactive when you're called to go in and try to resolve a situation and arrest somebody and take them to jail, we need to be able to have somebody there that knows the community, understands the issues, and are able to deal with that as a preventative rather than a reactive type of a situation.
Thank you. Candidate Santana, what procedures do you or would you implement to ensure recruits hired and deputies already on staff don't espouse and act on beliefs of white supremacy or white nationalism?
When somebody outwardly demonstrates these type of characteristics, they are not going to be able to do their law enforcement as I see it. They do not uphold to the values that I have. And as sheriff, all of my deputies must uphold my values and be able to practice these things. It is essential that we deal with this outwardly discriminative type of behavior very quickly, and empower those individuals that really want to make a difference to make a difference. And so that is where we have to change that narrative. I need the officers to be able to act as if I was the one that was there. And as a person of color, as a person of the community, as a family man.
Thank you. Sheriff Gualtieri, what procedures did, oh, I'm sorry. If
No,
you,
go ahead. I'll answer the question. I'll follow up from the previous question too. We already have robust community policing throughout Pinellas County, throughout the sheriff's office. We have a dedicated community policing unit. We're very involved in all kinds of programs and services. So what Mr. Santana is referring to has already been done here for years, and we do it extensively. We have great relationships with the community because of community policing. As far as this question is concerned, is that it comes down to culture of the agency. And to one, it's illegal, what you're talking about. And we only have, in the last 2 years, now think about this, and it shows that we have the right culture. In the last 2 years, we've responded to about 1 million calls for service, about 500,000 a year. We only have 3 bias-based policing complaints, 3 out of 1 million calls. We have the right training, the right culture, and it's instilling in people the sense of right and wrong and what is not going to be tolerated. And they know what we expect of them, and that is to treat everybody fairly and treat everybody right, and we won't tolerate that.
thank you. What can the sheriff's office do to reduce the level of human trafficking in this area? And this question goes to candidate Gualtieri.
Well, sure. Yeah, it's a very tough situation, especially in human trafficking is multifaceted. Most people think of human trafficking as being sex trafficking, but it also, human trafficking is in other areas. And it's very prevalent within the Hispanic community as far as lawn services are concerned, within the Asian community, with restaurants, and people are living and working in very, very tragic situations because they are really in servitude. And it is also in the sex trade. There's a lot of young boys and girls. So it's a matter of conducting robust investigations, but also education and counseling and trying to help these people break that cycle so that they don't become perpetual victims of those that are trying to exploit them. So we have a very dedicated crimes against children unit. And in our investigative section, we dedicate resources to it to make sure we're detecting those, but also providing services and get our victim advocates involved and help rescue those people. And we support organizations that rescue as well.
Thank you. Candidate Santana.
We need to stop promoting fear. It is essential that those individuals in our community feel comfortable with being able to call and ask for help, particularly in these situations when we place our deputies to be ICE enforcers, ICE agents. It removes that communication. It removes that ability of being able to truly resolve crimes that are happening in our community, not because they're not happening, but because people are afraid of reporting them. It is essential that we open that up and be able to be welcoming and truly have in the people that are skilled in investigating so that they can resolve these issues right from the start. But it starts with that trust between the community and the deputies.
Thank you. Candidate Santana, what role should the sheriff's office play in immigration detentions in light of the current pandemic, and why?
We need to minimize the amount of individuals that are being arrested. It is essential that we adopt the court guidelines that we have that allow us to cite and release individuals that are not a danger to our community. Those individuals that are in our jail facility because they do not have the means to be able to pay their bail, they need to be also be addressed and released. I am extremely concerned with the COVID situation with pregnant women, the elderly, and people that have medical situations that make them very susceptible. We need to reduce our population, and we also need to make sure that our deputies adhere to all of the guidelines that are there, not just the deputies, but also the inmates, to be able to reduce the spread of COVID.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri.
Well, I'm glad. We started this pandemic back in March with about 3,200 inmates in the Pinellas County Jail. It is now down to about 2,100 inmates. We've released over 1,100 inmates to help them get out, facilitate their release, and working with the courts and the other stakeholders in the criminal justice system. So it is important, and we've done it. We've reduced the jail population by 1,100 people. That's significant, and it's a good thing. As far as immigration goes, one of the things that is very important for everybody to understand is local law enforcement has no responsibility, no jurisdiction, no enforcement authority for immigration enforcement. That is solely within the province of the federal government and within the province of ICE. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office does not participate in immigration enforcement at all. The only thing that we do is when somebody is a criminal illegal who's in the jail and committed a crime and ICE wants to come get them, then we allow ICE to come get them. But we do not do immigration enforcement.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri, the next question is, what do you interpret calls for defunding law enforcement to mean, and what is your response to those calls?
Well, I think that when people are talking about defunding law enforcement, they're really not talking about defunding law enforcement. What they're really talking about is doing it in a better way, is looking at what we're doing and looking at the dollars and making sure the dollars are in the right place, and could they be better used to do it differently and better. And I don't really think that the people that are calling for defunding are really talking about gutting law enforcement. People want safe communities. They want law enforcement to be effective, but they also want law enforcement to do it right and make sure that we are in our wheelhouse doing what we're supposed to be doing and allowing others to do those things that they need to be, especially in the area of mental health. We have our own dedicated mental health unit within the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. We're doing a lot of the things that people are calling for. We have licensed mental health counselors that are teamed with deputies to respond to calls. We formed PICA, which is the Pinellas Integrated Care Alliance, for case management. We're already doing, I would suggest, the majority of the things that people are talking about here in Pinellas County that they want are already being done.
Thank you. Candidate Santana.
When we have individuals that are being arrested because they're having a mental crisis, and with the COVID-19 situation, we're going to have a lot more of that happening. When we have individuals that are being arrested for drug abuse, and there again, we're going to have more of that. The sheriff is right. We have a division, which is a medical division at our jail, which is spends significant amount of money, millions of dollars, to take care of the individuals, that if we spend that money ahead of time to have professionals, people that are able to handle these situations without having an arrest, we will be able to reduce the population that we have at the jail, reduce the amount of expenditure that we have currently to address these issues at the jail, and be able to have a safer community. It is important to be able to move the funds and resolve the issues at the very beginning rather than later.
Thank you. Candidate Santana, what precautions would you have in place to protect the public, people arrested, and those working at the jails from community spread of COVID-19?
Starts at the very top. As sheriff, I will wear protective mask, and I will practice safe distancing and all of the guidelines that are done. And I will have all of my officers, my deputies, practice these things also, compliant with the county regulations that have been put forth to keep our community safe. We need to institute being able to have this sterilization and be able to have this cleanliness in our jail. But I think the most important thing in there is to make sure that our population is reduced, that only those individuals that are a threat to our community are within that environment. And just a reminder that our deputies have families and they go home after being at work. And so it's essential that we attack these things and do all the practices necessary to keep the inmates, our officers, and our community safe from COVID-19.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri?
Yeah, I want to reemphasize that again, we reduced the jail population to get people out. One of the best things we could do is get people who don't need to be there out. We've reduced the jail population since March by 1,100 inmates. And we implemented robust procedures right off the bat. We screened everybody coming into the jail. Everybody that did come in that couldn't get out went into a 14-day quarantine. We locked the jail down. No professional visitors were coming in. We had everybody mandatory masks, and we had great success. In fact, we didn't have our first person test positive in the jail for COVID until June because of the great measures we took. And again, they were across the board, very significant, following all of the CDC guidelines, all of the national guidelines and local requirements. So we had great success. Today, we only have 4 inmates that have tested positive that are in the jail right now. So the measures have worked. The proof is in the pudding, as they would say, because we took it seriously, we continue to, and we're committed to minimizing the effect of COVID.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri, what do you think should be done to prevent mass shootings in schools when schools return to being fully opened?
Well, as some may know, I was tasked by the governor to chair the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Commission to investigate the Parkland shooting and to make recommendations to improve school safety. The commission has been meeting for a couple of years now. The commission will meet until 2023. We've delivered 2 robust reports to the governor and the legislature that have resulted in significant changes. And some of the best things that we can do is to prepare the students and prepare the teachers. So unfortunately, when it does happen again, that they know what to do and how to react. So it's training, it's drills, it's locking down, hardening facilities, knowing where to go and knowing what to do and knowing how to respond, and making sure that law enforcement is prepared to immediately respond and to address the situation. That's what the problem was in Parkland, is people didn't know what to do, where to do it, or how to do it, because there wasn't the adequate training, procedures, and policies in place. And that's what we have done, and what we need to continue to do is to educate everybody.
Thank you. Candidate Santana?
It is important to make sure that our schools are hardened, that that the entry and exit is limited, and the ability of somebody coming in is minimized. We need to be able to bring all the electronics necessary so we can have that surveillance and ability to truly see what's going on and react, and be able to close down the school automatically. The SROs, the school resource officers, are essential to this. I am going to handpick every SRO that is going to be within our schools to make sure that they're able to have all of the training necessary to keep our children safe, but also to act as counselors, as be able to help in that process, and be able to have the de-escalation process well taken, have the restorative justice principles applied. It is essential that we also establish community policing to eliminate that threat at the beginning.
Thank you. Candidate Santana, does your office, or would your office, hire deputies released from other county agencies that have had prior disciplinary records for excessive force?
No. We will truly evaluate that to make sure that all of the issues are fairly addressed. But when we have an agency that has, out of the 32 that are command level staff, out of the 32, we have the majority, no, we have 30 of them that look like the sheriff, and only 2 identify themselves as person of colors. We do not have the ability of being able to promote people and to keep deputies in place. And that leads us to be able to increase the amount of recruitment that we have. With truly doing what we need to do and having a new sheriff there, we're going to be able to have a lot of recruits coming in, and we do not have to rely on taking these leftovers that from other locations. I will not allow that to occur.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri?
The answer is no, absolutely not. I'm not sure what Mr. Santana is referring to. Our attrition rate is only about 8%, and most of that is through normal retirement. We only hire, and I only approve for hiring, about 10% of the people who apply. We go through a very, very extensive, thorough background and vetting process. And unless people are of the highest caliber, the highest character, we do not hire them. We have the ability, for being a premier law enforcement agency in this country, to be very selective and to make sure that we only hire the best of the best. We don't hire anybody else's baggage, retreads, discards, and never have, and we never will.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri, in what areas do you think the Sheriff's Office needs to improve, and in what areas do you believe the Sheriff's Office performs well?
Well, I think one of the things we need to do is to continue to make an effort to communicate better with the community. I think we're doing so many things that people don't know about, and that's an area that I've said before that we need to do a better job of communicating. So as an example, Mr. Santana talks about restorative justice and talks about what we do with the kids. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office is the #1 agency, leads the state of Florida in juvenile civil citation or pre-arrest diversion. 96% of the kids that we come in contact with who have committed a crime for the first time never touch the juvenile justice system. They are diverted and they're given community service. They don't get a criminal record. They don't get that baggage of having to deal with that for life. I talked about our mental health programs. We have, again, licensed clinical social workers who team up with deputies that are out on the street. We have an adult pre-arrest diversion program so that adults for first-time offenders don't get arrested, don't go to jail. So we have a number of initiatives that are out there, and I'd like to make sure we communicate a lot more about those to the community.
Thank you. Candidate Santana?
Definitely diversity. We need to increase our diversity that we have within the ranks, and we're too top heavy at the top. And not are we only top heavy, but the racially totally in balance. It is essential that we address these issues and also give the ability of those officers that are doing the right thing, giving them the tools and the encouragement to continue on, and they will have the promotional process available to them so that we can then promote those individuals that do the community policing in the right way, that do the actions that are necessary to keep our community safe. We're top heavy at the top. We're going to be addressing that, and it definitely has to change the diversity that we have within that, racially and also economically.
Thank you. Candidate Santana, what is your position on the protest for racial injustice?
Can you repeat that question?
What is your position on the protests for racial injustice?
I have to say that it is American. It is in our core value that when we see something wrong, that we go out there and peacefully protest, and we let the authorities know that they're not acting in the way that we think is right and that how they should act. As sheriff, I will protect the rights of every individual to peacefully protest and be able to go and demonstrate. It is essential that that happens. And we can see the power of that. There's a lot of different changes that are happening at the higher level that would not have occurred if they had not gone to the streets and said that enough is enough. We need the law enforcement to be radically changed to be able to improve the community rather than impose their will on the community. And these racial discrimination will not be accepted.
Thank you. Candidate Gualtieri?
Well, I need to address this because Mr. Santana has raised this a few times now and talked about this alleged racial disparity within the sheriff's office. Pinellas County is made up of demographics 79% white, 11% African American. The demographics of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office are 78% white and 12.2% African American. So we reflect the community. Those are simply the numbers. So when he's saying that we're racially imbalanced, that's just simply not true. As far as the protesters are concerned, please protest, bring it on, do it peacefully. I personally was down in St. Petersburg where we had rocks, bottles, ground glass thrown at us. People brought Molotov cocktails, people brought guns, and they were not peaceful and they were violent towards us. Once that stopped and the peaceful protesters were doing their protesting, I 100% support it. That's democracy. That's the American way. I have no issue with people protesting, but they have to do it peacefully. And that I do oppose. I hope everyone else would oppose violent protests as well.
Thank you. And the last question, candidate Gualtieri, in 4 years, in the year 2024, how would you want the sheriff's office to be generally described under your watch?
As one that has made every effort to keep the community as safe as possible, reduce crime, and one that is respected and has a great relationship with the community we serve, that we've made great strides, and that we have the trust and the confidence of the community, even more so than we do today. Because we can't do our job effectively unless we have the trust and we have the confidence of the public. So I would like to see us, even though we are doing well, there's always room to get better and to continue to improve and to drive crime down so that it doesn't happen to begin with, and that people know when they have contact with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, they have been treated right, they've been treated fairly, and we've been effective in our relationships with everyone throughout the community.
Thank you. Candidate Santana?
I want to be able to look back at the 4 years and say that our community has become involved in making sure that we are safe, that there is a trust that is built, that when we have a deputy behind us in our vehicle, that fear that many of us have is not there. It is essential that we bring in the community, that the community feels that they are a part of this endeavor. We need to be able to make sure that our agency at the top level reflects that of the community so that we can then have that diversity that we truly need and want. It is essential that we bring in those individuals that can help us from the community to be able to address these issues.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes for a closing statement. The order of closing statements was previously determined. Candidate Gualtieri, you will go first.
Thank you. I started my law enforcement career 38 years ago, and I'm the only candidate in the race with any law enforcement, legal, or management experience. In addition to being a law enforcement officer, I'm also a lawyer. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office has almost 3,000 employees, and our total budget this year will top about $400 million. We're a big business with a lot of moving parts, and the leader of this organization must have proven leadership and management experience. I'm the only candidate in the race who's worked in and run the county jail, where we book about 30,000 inmates a year and have an average daily population in non-COVID times of about 3,200 inmates. We have 1,100 employees there and a budget of about $120 million, with a jail medical budget alone of about $20 million. I've been recognized by my peers for many accomplishments, and I most recently served as president of the Florida Sheriff's Association, representing all the sheriffs in the state of Florida. I serve on the board of directors of the Major County Sheriffs of America, where the largest sheriff's offices in the country come together to improve law enforcement. There are 3,080 sheriffs in the United States, and I was selected by those sheriffs through the National Sheriff's Association as their 2019-20 Sheriff of the Year. I was named by the governor, as I mentioned before, to chair the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Commission after the Parkland shooting, and we've delivered those 2 reports to the governor and the legislature to improve school safety in Florida so that our kids are as safe as they can possibly be. I've demonstrated a commitment to listening to the community and making changes that will improve the delivery of law enforcement, and most importantly, demonstrated that I can keep our community safe. Since I've been in office, we've reduced crime in our service area in Pinellas County by 49.5%. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because of experience, good policies, effective use of technology, and a lot of very dedicated cops who work hard every day. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this evening, and I ask for your vote on November 3rd so we keep Pinellas County the safest place to live, work, and enjoy life.
Thank you. Candidate Santana.
We do not need a career law enforcement officer to be in charge of the agency. We do not need a better lawyer to be able to address these issues. We have excellent people within the agency that are able to do these things. What we need is somebody that is able to have the heart and want to be of service and be able to truly address the issues that are a concern to our community. The statistics that we have, we need to truly be safe. Please Google rapes in Pinellas after you get finished with this, and you're going to find an article by the Tampa Bay Times investigative article that indicates that our rape cases are not being properly investigated. Over 80%, 80 of them over a 4-year period has been improperly done and been closed by administrative means. They give the agency the look as if they were doing the right thing, but yet dozens of them were not investigated. And the essence of it is, as sheriff, I will spend whatever resources we have to be able to investigate serious crimes like rape and truly address them, not just give some kind of a administrative way of correcting them and eliminating them and make the agency look better. It is essential that we stop what we're doing and truly have people that are professional investigating. Our community demands and deserves that. It is my deep feeling that we are at a crossroads. You can choose to keep the type of strong law enforcement that we have, or you can bring in somebody that can truly address the issues and correct the crimes that we have and bring the community into play.
Thank you. Candidates, thank you for your participation in this process. In closing, I would like to remind everyone of the upcoming election deadlines. You must register to vote on or before October 5th. Please refer to PinellasVoterGuide.com or call the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections for voting information. Please register now to vote by mail. You can request a mail-in ballot anytime between now and October 24th. We strongly encourage you to request your mail-in ballot well before the deadline. Please mail your ballot at least 2 weeks before the election day. You can also drop off a ballot or vote at an early voting location prior to election day. On election day, your ballot may only be dropped off at a supervisor of elections office before 7 p.m. A recording of this forum with closed captioning will be available on the League of Women Voters St. Petersburg Area YouTube channel after the event. Be sure to join us next Thursday at 7 p.m. for the Pinellas County Commissioner Candidates Forum. Thank you. Have a good evening.